Morning, guys. So I've been messing with these link pockets, putting the links in, trying to make sure they're parallel, and I've been having issues with this side, and the other side looks really good. It's fitting properly. Everything seems to be like it needs to be. The distance over, though, is a little bit off. This one seems to be kicking out this way a little bit too much. Now, they give an 1/8 inch as their tolerance, but for me, well, this one's quite a bit farther out than that. And so everything fit. You know, I've had this car together and apart multiple times. That's why I haven't welded anything down, because I'm trying to make sure everything. And if you watch the big boys do their cars, like, well, any of the main people that do this for a living, they mock these cars completely up. They put the motors in, they put the transmissions in, they do all that stuff to make sure everything fits. They put in for like vintage air, all the stuff that they're gonna have, any kind of special items that they're gonna make, they mock all that up. Then they tear the cars back down again. I mean, that's just the way they're doing it. They don't just put it together and then go, oh, I forgot this, and then have to go back and, you know, if they painted something or whatever. You understand what I'm saying. So I've had people question me why I'm doing it this way. Well, I've been following a guy named Jubee for quite a while now, and he works at a place called the Installation Center, and he worked with Craig Hopkins. If you guys don't know who that is, he's been doing it for forever, and he's worked with AMD. He's worked with all the big boys in the past. He's kind of like a Chip Foose of building cars, basically. And so this guy has worked with him and for him, I guess, or still does. I'm not exactly sure, but he's really good at what he does. And so he's opened my eyes to some things that I didn't realize. He has a jig, and I highly suggest you guys, if you're building any car, because he builds Camaros, he builds all kinds of muscle cars. But I suggest you guys check out his channel, because he has information that a lot of people are not going to have, because he does it every single day, and he has hookups with all of the parts places and knows what's going on with a lot of that stuff. He said he's even turned some of this stuff in to him and said, hey, this part's not right. You need to remake it or revamp your tooling or whatever you need to do to get this taken care of. And so far hasn't had much luck with that. But I'm sure it's super expensive to redo a whole tooling thing. It's probably thousands and thousands of dollars. But the problem is guys like me that get these, they think, okay, this is right, that is right. So out of the box, I'm not thinking, you know, I'm gonna have to modify that in any way. I'm thinking, okay, well, you know, I've had to modify quite a bit of stuff already, but it's just little stuff that's, you know, whatever, just doesn't quite fit right. You have to slice it and move it and re-weld it or whatever. But I'm thinking, man, they've had to do their homework on these, right? Well, you guys know that I've set up my subframe connectors off these holes, because that's where your subframe comes in and bolts down in here. So I've got my subframe connectors coming up in to here. Well, he was saying that sometimes these are off. Well, he has a jig that comes under, it's a lot like this one, but he has an extra deal where it comes up and comes under here to where he can make sure that these are right. And if they're not, you take this plate off and you move it. Well, I've already got mine all hooked up thinking these are right. Now, maybe they are, maybe they're not. But I know I'm having problems with my link pocket at this point. So that may not have anything to do with what's going on here. And luckily, I have not welded the floor down or anything like that. So I'm getting ready to blow this thing apart, take that off and flip it upside down and figure out why those link pockets are not parallel. So that's basically what I'm getting ready to do next. Because like I said, that one's just kicked out a little bit for some reason. And I've tried to move it back in. The DSE pocket itself may not be right. It may need to be slotted. I don't know. That's what I'm going to find out. Another thing, he was talking about the frame rails and stuff. man, there's so much more than I think I realized when you buy this stuff that needs to be modified. Because I'm like, well, okay, I bought this from whatever manufacturer and it's going to be close, right? Well, not necessarily. So be real careful with your parts. Make sure you measure everything, make sure everything's parallel. It's so important to how this car is going to end up. You know, if I put this thing in here like this and I put my rear end in that I've got finished and everything, put my quadrillink back in and all that, and this bar is, I can make it fit, but say it's in there and it's binding. Well, that's not going to be good. It needs to sit in there and have some free play back and forth, in my opinion. Anytime you have something binding like that, it's just not going to be good. It's going to prematurely wear things out. You know, my rear end may not track correctly with the front, especially if something like this is out. So I need to make sure my subframe and my rear suspension and my subframe connectors and everything are perfectly parallel so that the car tracks straight. So having said all that, I'm going to take all this back apart and, like I said, flip it over and get it to where I can actually physically, instead of laying underneath it and trying to look at it, I can look at it from the top side and kind of get an idea of what's going on and why that pocket's not going that direction. And it could be the floor here. So I've got a bolt under here and maybe the floor is just not quite, you know, because when I take this bolt out, you can move that pocket over. Well, it's like, well, I thought, well, I may have to elongate that little hole there because it's got like a J, what do they call it? A J nut, I guess, in there. Well, they give you a little bit of play, but it seems like I'm going to need more play than that. So that's why I pulled this whole side over with this, which didn't move very much. It moved enough. But doing this differently, I was like, okay, I got this, no big deal. I can do this. But then to find out, like he was saying, some of the parts here come out and aren't right. Like you have to go in and modify that. Well, that's gonna be an obvious thing because you're gonna put your inner wheel well in there and you're gonna go, wow, that's really off. But stuff like this, you're not gonna really know that, like, until maybe it's too late, you know what I mean? So you really, like he said, you really need a jig if you're gonna go at this from the way I'm doing it and the way he does it, the way they do it at the installation center. You really need to make sure your jig's right. And I love the fact that he's got one that comes up under there. That would be, and I can still add those, but I don't have those dimensions. So I really do need to know what the dimensions are, and they should be 33.5 from here to here, I think is, if I remember right, because they line up. They should line up with the frame under here, but I could be wrong on that. But anyway, problem for me is, you remember I plumb bobbed down through here, found the center of my sublet frame connectors and measured perfectly off center. And so if that thing is off, then all of that's off, which, like I said, that's not a big deal. I can move this over. I can straighten this however I need to, but that needs to be done now before I go any further. So again, I know a lot of guys are like, man, you need to start, wow, how come you have to start welding that car? Well, this is why, because if I weld all this car together, I'm screwed. I mean, it's too late at that point. So, I mean, then you got to try to start cutting all those welds back out, and that's going to be a pain. So to me, getting this part right is critical on this car. So anyway, I want to give a shout out to Jubee May. And so I will put a link in the description below, and you guys go check him out, subscribe. He's got a little over 1,000 subscribers, 1,200 subscribers, something like that. He should have way more than that because the guy knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. He does it day in and day out, and he's worked with some of the best people in this field. So, yeah, just going to give him a shout out. Thank you for what you do, Jubee. and you're showing me things. And I've been doing this for quite a while, but there's things that I just didn't realize, that those brackets may not be straight, or whatever it is. Crazy. There was a lot more stuff than what I've said on this video so far. But the way he sets up his frame rails, he's got pins that go in, pins that go in there, and I've got pins down here, but I don't have pins that go in up here. So these are just basically sitting on this, and then I used this line here and underneath, which when I flip it back over, I'll show you what I'm talking about, how I set those up. But and then I measured across both ends to make sure that it was square. So I know this is square, so now I've got to make sure that this part is going to be square. So all right, that's it for now. We'll talk to you guys in a bit. See you. Drop the nut out of here. Find it. I've had this off a long time, so I may end up having to pull stuff loose here. Likely I won't be able to pull that. Alright, this is going to be tricky. Looks pretty good for a fat boy, huh? All right, I'll bring you back when I get everything lined up and the link pockets and everything back in there. I'm gonna bolt those actually. Let's see, that's flipped over, so this side will go on this side. So I used this existing hole here, was made for that. Put those in there and then see what we're hitting or not hitting, or something in here needs to be tweaked, or why this is not letting this move like it should. All right, so first let's double check my measurements, which I'll go right to that there. I'm looking at 68.5, as you can see here, to this hole, which is where these pins right here go. And these pins are the exact, well, just a little bit smaller than these holes. There's not really any play in there. And then 68.5 to that hole, so we're good there. So this is square. That's good. It's 33.5 inches from this hole to this hole, which is exactly 33.5 inches what the jig called for. One thing that I didn't do that Jubee did, which was a great idea, is he has uprights here with a hole in it that he can slide pins through these holes right here and locate them, and that's awesome. So if I ever do another one of these, that I'll likely do that to this jig. Another thing that idea that I might steal from him is putting this on a rotisserie, or making some kind of attachment to where I can put this jig on a rotisserie like he did his. Now, I don't know if it'll work. I'd have to work out all the details, but that seems like a really great idea. That way, man, being able to flip this over and weld stuff and do all that instead of having to lay upside down or flip it over on its side and weld would be so much more advantageous. So what else? So these link pockets, same holes down there. You're looking at 60 and an 1/8 to the dead center of the round edge on that link pocket. And then on this side, we're looking at 60 and an 1/8 to the dead center of that edge of that link pocket there. So this setup is right and good and happy. Now I got to put the pockets in themselves to figure out why they're not perfectly parallel with each other, because this one, let's see, no, this one will be kicking out a little bit. If I had flipped it over, it'd be this way. Yeah, so if you guys ever want to see what this looks like upside down, you can see the penetration come through from the top of the welds here, welding these boxes in. You can see where I welded all this in, stitch welded it in. You can see the penetration coming through under here from me having to actually section this trunk a little bit and move it. I don't remember exactly what I had to do, but I had to take a slice out for something and then weld it back up. So you see the penetration coming through this side. These have all been plug welded from the top down, and you can see that. You know, remember I pulled these off because the factory doesn't, the powder coating doesn't, or not the powder coating, but the EDP doesn't get up inside here. And of course this was bare metal, so I went back in and put epoxy primer back underneath these, in case you guys don't remember that. And then obviously where I spot welded or plug welded in, actually I just put the same type of primer that Jubee's using, just happened to be the same stuff. And I've used gold as well, so that's preference, and we've done the weld through primer videos, and so it's whatever. Obviously I had to cut this one as well for some reason, and you can see the little beads that had come back through where I stitch welded that in. Yeah, just kind of give you a little look at everything here up close. back sides of this where it all got welded in. Welded around here. Again, I put this on here just to stabilize these. This will come back off, it's just tack welded on. So if there's any of this stuff that you guys have wanted to see from the underneath side, this is it. Again, I pulled this off, remember, because underneath here it's bare metal. I don't know if Jubee knows that or not, but a lot of these parts, they're not coated inside there. So if water gets up inside here, it'll start the rust process. So I literally took all these panels off and coated them with this black SPI epoxy primer. So that's a quick update on that. Sounds like my food's here. I have a little doorbell that my wife rings from the inside of the house when she needs me, which is awesome because I don't always pay attention to my phone, or I'm grinding, or I have earphones on and I can't hear anything. So it's worked out good because the thing's really loud. So that's what you just heard there. But yeah, I got these put up here. I've got the scribe lines here. One thing I noticed that he did straight out of the box on his was he came in and he actually flattened these out. I did not do that. I didn't know that's something that you needed to do. So that would actually suck these up tighter probably to this a little bit, but kind of is what it is right now. So all this stuff's going to be welded in and it's not going anywhere. So just for me, the main thing is to make sure that this car is perfectly aligned and tracking straight, and all of my measurements are square. That's what I'm after right now. So, but I like having this upside down because, man, I can get the stuff that I'm not, you know what I mean? It's like this is nice to be able to get to this area like this. Now you guys know I actually put, oh, I forget what they're called. I capped these off so you can see where the welds come through here. We're actually put 1/8" plate steel into these to box these in to make them stronger. And we went in and epoxy primed inside here as well. So that's all coated up inside, but I'll have to do it again if I weld anything to these, which I probably did here. I don't remember. Anyway, I'm trying to rethink all this stuff. Here's my spring brackets that I welded, and I welded those upside down. It'd been nice to have them out like this. That would have been great, just to be able to weld them in like that. So this setup, having this jig to be able to pick this stuff up and put it on a table is really, really nice if you're doing this the way that I'm doing it, from the ground up, from scratch basically. So what else? This all looks good, so I'm happy with that. So I'm gonna go eat lunch and I'll bring you back, but let's see, this one is gonna go probably on this side. And I'll put a bolt through there, and you can see those holes are already lined up because I already cut those, and that's lined up good. So this one was the good side that was good. So now we got to figure out, and I'll put my links bars back in here with something holding them up parallel. That way I can figure out if why they're not square, and then figure out from there where to go. So I'll bring you back. See you. Okay, so I think I got it figured out. So this is what we ended up with. Let me show you before I start doing too much stuff. I run this laser straight down, and you can hopefully see where it comes right to the center of this, and then again right to the center of this. It's matched up from here to here is 41.5, 41.5. Across here is, I believe, 40 something and a quarter. Yeah, 44 and a quarter. I'm going right to the inside edge of this here and touching just that edge there to 44 and a quarter. You go this direction, and again you've got 44 and a quarter. So it's square, it's set this way. This one obviously follows right down the center of that laser. And so that's where it needs to stay. So let me turn the light on and kind of give you an idea of what to look for maybe a little bit on these. Because I started noticing some things that I didn't see before. What's probably going on is the way I made these top caps, they're probably sticking out just a little bit, and it's causing the link pocket to not want to do what it needs to do. It's probably kicking it out too much. So I need to grind all this down and maybe tack here and here, whatever. But yeah, on those sides to get it to where it's not. I think that might be what was going on. Another thing that's going on is, and hopefully you are seeing what I'm seeing, because sometimes I get out of camera. Yeah, so make sure that like this washer here, so what this is a sleeve that goes inside there, and then there's a bushing inside that. So this sleeve, this side doesn't have this sleeve. This side has this edge basically where it comes in. And so this washer or this spacer needs to go next to that on both sides. Well, I was looking at this and I thought, well, the sticker needs to come up so you could see it, right? Well, that's not the case. They put the sticker maybe possibly on the wrong side. If I'm looking at everything correct, because this spacer, from what I can see, needs to go next to this washer, and these go inboard of the spacer. So that gives you what you need to be parallel. Now, everything that I've got set up here is, all this stuff turned out amazing. So I'm super pumped about that. And I went ahead and put the plate on the bottom here. Had to grind a little bit of this weld off here to where this, hopefully you're seeing that. I had to notch this little edge right here, so that way it pulls it up, and I still got to pull it up tighter, but there's a floor goes in between there, obviously, or around it. And I probably need to work. I'm glad I scribed these lines, because that's helping me tremendously. And I need to work on this stuff here a little bit, because it's just not quite, it's kind of out of whack a little bit. But what else? I found center, going out, everything is, like I said, square. It's square this direction on the X. And so that's where this needs to stay. So the directions also say I need to put a sleeve in here. So I'll probably go ahead and do that while I got it upside down. But I got a little bit more working to do here. For sure here, I haven't even, other than get them all lined up and everything, I haven't put the plate on, locked it down, so I want to see if it's going to move at all or whatever. But again, I think it was probably those caps on there. Probably should have ground those off better. Wasn't thinking about it at the time. You know, I was just thinking the frame was going to sit on it. And so, yeah. One thing I did to these, and I don't know if you guys remember, is this is basically all thread, and I've slotted it there to where you can pull it all the way out. But you can also put a big nut on here. So if you don't box your frame rails in like I did, or if you do and you don't put the caps on the ends, you can actually put a nut up in here and lock it down to where those stay locked down good, so they're not moving around. Again, this is made to fit that hole, almost a slip fit. Well, it is a slip fit. I don't know if the factory had like a 1/4 inch dowel or whatever it was, but this one literally, that hole just slides right over it. So something you might think about. I don't know, Jubee's got ones where he slides his down in. It's got like a long rod and everything. That seems pretty awesome. Their setup is way more advanced than what I've got here. So but I've got a good platform, so that's good. I know this frame jig is set up right. I set it all up with lasers and everything. So but there's that. While I have that off, there's probably a lot of stuff I could do to that. I just need to think it through. Little stuff that you know, like grinding off these little tacks here and stuff like that, that is gonna keep me from having to lay on my back and do that. So to clean all this stuff up while it's upside down. But this is all I'm gonna get today. I've got it where I want it. I'm pretty happy with it. Again, I've measured out, put a mark here, measured out, mark here. What I've done here is run that straight up that center mark. Basically lined that up and went right up that groove. Come up here, put my glasses on, move it just a tad to where that's lined up perfectly in this little groove. This one's off a bit. So now that hits that line, it hits this, and runs right up the center of that, comes off here, and again, that runs right down to the center of this. So these are lined up exactly where they need to be, parallel. So, and these frame rails, they twist and kick out that way, so don't let that throw you off. It's not a thing. So, but these need to be lined up. That's one thing you need to watch. And Jubee was showing he's got a special fixture where he comes up on the back side of this, which is really cool. Like I said, if I did this all the time, it'd be worth going ahead and doing those little things to this. But man, I don't know that I'll ever do another Camaro like this. I mean, this is my Camaro, and I'm gonna fix it, finish it, and I mean, I don't think I'll be too old by the time I'm finished with this dang thing to try to pick up another one, but who knows. But yeah, that's it. I'm real happy with the way that looks and has turned out. And my link pockets fit in there nicely. Again, I've got everything squared up. Did the same thing with the laser, moved it over here, ran the laser up here, right down the dead center of that. So we know that this is centered. And I've got these sitting on here because it's heavier on that end. I need to, let's see, I've got a little jack around here, which is the most awesome little jack. I'm so glad I picked it up because it's gonna make a good weight for me. Well, oh, here it is. No, I got already using it. I was gonna put it back here for weight and move those off and slide those up under there to look at them. But yeah, that's a old Walker jack, and it's like that old roller car over there, made probably a little newer than that one is. That was one of the first ones ever made. This is the one I'm talking about. It's not hydraulic at all. It's all gears and everything. Squirrel moment. So yeah, I need some weight because I'd like to look at these. Let's see which one would I, yeah, see how it's moving. Got to be careful. I don't want that thing to tump over. I don't know if this is the right side. Passenger side, and this is yes, that is correct. Okay, so basically that's going to sit on there right like that. I think that's right. This is passenger seat, the driver's side. I may have that backwards. This may be. Okay, come on, brain. Yep, we got it upside down. That's better. Yep. Okay, so those sit right in there like that. You can see this line here. Lines right up. And right along that bar. So I have my laser on the other side. I should have, here, let me switch these over, because that laser may give me, let me take this out of the way. Put this back here. this one. Now let's look at this one with this laser and see. I don't know if that's going to show me anything or not. Yeah, that's money. I like that. That's good. That's real good. So that should work perfectly. Yeah. All right, let me go put this back on there before I flip it. Flip this thing off there. That'd suck. I need to put a little bit more weight on this end. I'll figure out something. But yeah, that's going to be it for today. So I appreciate you guys watching. Again, check out Jubee May's channel, and I'll put a link in the description below. So you guys have a good one. We'll see you.